Football is on at Yard House. Step up your game at Yard House with Monday Night Happy Hour from kickoff to the final play, featuring appetizers starting at $5. Enjoy game day favorites including boneless wings, pizzas, poke nachos, and more. Plus, catch all the action on over 20 flat-screen TVs and enjoy the largest selection of draft beer with over 100 beers on tap. This season, make Yard House your home for football. Visit yardhouse.com for details.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
1, 2, 3.
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing with
4. 5. 6. 7.
Can I help you?
8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Friday, the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday, the 13th.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Travis and Vic's Drunken Horror Adventures. I'm Travis, joined as always by my compadre, Vic. What's up, buddy?
What is up, man? And actually, we already have a call. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. It may be our special guest.
It is. I would hope so. She's awesome, if so.
All right, let's see. Adrienne, is that you?
Yeah, it is. Hi.
Well, as promised, we've got Adrienne King on the line. Adrienne, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I guess I'm live, huh?
You absolutely are. We're not, you talk to me about tech savvy. We're not exactly that. We just kind of do our thing and mull on forward. So, everybody, this is Adrienne King, the wonderful, survivor girl from the first Friday the 13th, which we're going to talk about tonight. But, Adrienne, we've had the opportunity to meet you in Lexington, Kentucky. I have been fortunate enough to order your awesome wine, which we'll get into later. But the first thing I really wanted to get into with you is, how do you kind of, it's 1979, how do you kind of fall into a movie like Friday the 13th? Were there open auditions, or how does that happen?
Yeah, I've talked about a long time ago. It's gone back probably 36 years, and every actor in New York City in the summer of 1999, probably younger than 30 years old, was on an open call for this movie. Everyone.
Do you have any memories of the actual, I don't know, I guess it would be a rehearsal?
Well, I have. It was a long process of auditions, and then rehearsals maybe when we got to the set, definitely, but not a whole lot of rehearsals up until everyone was cast. But, yeah, I sure do. I remember being selected as one of the girls, not knowing who I was going to play in the beginning. So everyone got to read Marcy's shower scene, as they called it. So that was kind of fun. And, I got to read with Kevin. I got to read with a bunch of other people before they decided that Harry and I were going to be a team. So, yeah, I remember I remember the screen test like it was yesterday, because it was down to 3 people. The other 2, I don't know who they were. They didn't make it into the other girls. But, yeah, I sure do remember the screen test, too.
So did they kind of give you an idea of what they were looking for? They were looking for young, attractive people. Is that kind of the idea that you got from it?
Yeah, I remember Sean saying right from the beginning that he was looking for kids next door. He said, that's what I'm looking for, the kids next door. And so if you think about it, everyone in that movie you can kind of identify as one of the kids in your neighborhood,
Absolutely, and that was one of the things that I think that they've never been able to capture in any of the movies, any of the recent movies that they've tried, with the remake and everything else, is that you've got all these models and these WB stars, whereas you all were certainly pretty people, but at the same time, I could have seen you, on my street. So yeah, it was definitely the kids next door type of vibe, and it seemed like, and you can obviously shed light on this, it seemed like you all really got along too.
Yeah, it was easy to get along in that environment. We were all young actors starting out. Most of us were doing like off Broadway, soap operas, extras on movies, or I think Kevin already had a movie under his belt at that time. But most of us were pretty, in the same kind of league, and we were so happy to be cast. So imagine if you're doing what you love to be doing and you're getting paid for it, and you're actually hanging out at a camp. It's not terrible,
So the filming took place, was it during the summer? Was the weather good?
No, it was the day after Labor Day we started. It was, and it still is, a Boy Scout camp in North Bergen, New Jersey, called Camp Novi Bosco, which stands for North Bergen Boy Scout, Novi Bosco. We all thought it was an Indian name at the time, but no, it's Boy Scout camp, and once in a blue moon they'll open it for fans, but they're pretty strict about it from what I understand. And it was the day after Labor Day, and it went on and off for about 7 weeks.
You gave me exactly what I was wondering. Do you remember roundabouts, like during the filming, when you did the scene where, and we can get to it, but where Jason pops out of the water at the end? How far into filming was that?
We actually shot that 3 different times, and you can tell kind of by the way the leaves on the trees, when we finally got it right, it was much... Look
at you. You knew exactly what I was talking about, because every time I watch that, I'm like, that looks like fall. It had to have been fall when they filmed that.
Well, and you see, figure it out. We started when it's, still very, very warm, and the leaves are really green, the end of summer, and as it progressed into fall, we took the last shot. We started, and we didn't quite get it right, like 2 weeks in, and then we saved for another camera, and that was about 4 weeks in, and then they got the slow-mo camera, and that was, we had to save another couple of weeks for money for that. So when they finally got it, it was definitely chilly outside, and no one had a wetsuit because we were so low budget. They couldn't afford a wetsuit. We had barely one change of clothing, and so... It was tough going for Ari and Tom Savini and Sean Cunningham all standing there in the water as I'm sitting in the kitchen on the warming tray.
But you did get pulled into the water, correct?
Oh yeah, sure did, twice.
Right. So 2 takes it took then to get that one right?
Yeah, and the one you see is the second take, so I already had been pulled into that and we went out of frame on it, and so Ari always says my finest hour was not letting the audience know what was coming on the second one, although I knew what was coming, not to let the audience in on the, anticipation, as it's called. So, yeah, it was cold in that water, but Lord knows it was worth it. We're talking about it 36 years later, 35 and a half years later.
Well, speaking of, we're talking favorably about it 35 and a half years later, and certain people, maybe aren't exactly proud of their roles in the Friday the 13th series. You've always, despite, some of the turbulent times you've been through, you've always, been positive about your times on the set of Friday the 13th, being part of Friday the 13th, the fans that you've gotten to meet over time. Have you always felt that way, or is it something that you've grown to love?
Well, it's interesting. I was always thrilled that I got to do it, as an actress who gets to play such a fabulous role, and then it turning into a very special, iconic role. Who would have known that, considering that we barely even got the movie made? But I think what happened was after, like you said, I went through my own little tribulations and came to find out as a bonus, I guess, because I kind of put away Friday the 13th on a shelf and thought of it as a great memory, and that was that. And then came to find out, goodness, it was 2004 from Peter Bracke when he tracked me down to write Crystal Lake Memories, what we all call it, the Bible about Friday the 13th, from 1 to whatever it is now. And he was the one who said, wow, man, you have no idea. People wonder what happened to you, It's like you've got fans out there, 3 generations around the world. And I was like, you have to understand we didn't have the Internet like we have it now, right? It's a no-brainer. You can find out what's going on. But we didn't have a Google search, not even, 12 years ago or whatever. And so it's kind of like wild for me. Overnight I found out I had a legion of fans that I guess, it was like the whipped cream on the cake. And then to find out how loyal and true and how much my character actually meant to so many people growing up, and they hold on to it, and especially, people who need a strong person who's not necessarily one who goes out after a fight, but when pushed up against the wall can fight back, and I guess that's Alice.
Absolutely. And, once you figured out what your role was going to be, do you remember, kind of how you felt, getting to be, quote-unquote, the survivor girl of the series? We already had Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode at that point, so we're a couple years after that, and that movie had a lot of success. Did you think this was just going to be, another run-of-the-mill horror movie? I guess this was kind of the start of the big boom, but at the same time, I'm curious what your thoughts were kind of heading into this thing. Was it just, a paycheck, or what did you expect?
No, it was really funny. We all talked about it, too, when we got to the set. There was a real feeling of sometimes when you get on a set, there's this incredible tingle of independent spirit, and everybody's there for the right reason, and like, we're going to take this movie and we're going to make it. And we knew we were dealing with a ultra low budget too, so it was really important that everybody was on the same page. And it was just one of those things you could never ever duplicate in terms of the perfect storm scenario. You had Tom Savini, who was just ready to break out and be brilliant, and give us his best. And then you had all these actors that all they wanted to do is really just be there and be on screen and have something to really be proud of. And Sean just being desperate to have a hit, whatever it be. And he's the one to tell you that, he's basically mortgaged everything, including his life, the poor man. And Harry Manfredini. I mean, think about the brilliance of him and the score, and then ending up with Betsy Palmer of all people. Not everybody could have pulled that one off and been so brilliant and so camp and gotten away with it. And then everybody bringing up everybody's. The most important thing, or one of the most, is the casting directors were New York Broadway casting people, and they knew each and every one of us what we could do, and it was just one of those lucky, like I said, perfect storms, perfect Fridays.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that.